ZCam have been as busy as always and have just released the 0.95 firmware for their E2 series of cameras. This introduced a range of awesome things, but one thing that has now been unlocked is the ability for the E2 series to output RAW over the HDMI. This is currently confirmed for the E2 and E2-M4, but fingers crossed this will be coming to the flagships very soon. At the same time, Atomos have also announced the ability to record ProRes RAW from the E2, which will be publicly available in early summer. However, we have got early access for us to have a look at today, so let's walk through how it works and what the footage looks like. First off the bat, getting your equipment updated is nice and simple. For the E2, head over to the link in our bio, download the firmware for your camera, save it so you don't open the zip file, drag it onto the root of your media, pop it into your camera, go to firmware and hit update. To update your Ninja 5, download the update, copy the atomxxx.fw file onto the root of your SSD, insert the SSD into your Ninja, power on the Ninja, let it update, wait for it to power itself down, and then boot it back up and check the firmware. So you now have both of your devices updated. Perfect. Now you can rig them on together and get shooting. However, two things to double check are that your SSD and HDMI cable can handle the data rate of ProRes RAW. In regards to SSDs, Atomos have a compatibility page that lists the media that they have found to work with ProRes RAW. So make sure that yours is on this list or do some tests with yours and let us know if it works. Today we are using the 1TB Atomx SSD Mini from Angelbird. Moving on to the cable, Atomos make their own 4K 60 HDMI 2.0 cables that will work perfectly. However, there are other options on the market, but your mileage may vary. I've also now had the chance to test the ZCam 30cm HDMI 2.0 cable. This cable is designed specifically for the full E2 series. The cable has a locking screw on one end, which will screw directly onto the threads surrounding the E2's HDMI port. This means that the cable will stay secure. It's also extremely thin and light. Honestly, surprisingly so. It even works when capturing 4K 60p ProRes RAW, which is pretty awesome. If you're going to get a Ninja or Shinobi or any other full HDMI monitor to live on your E2, this is the cable to get. You have two flavours of ProRes RAW available, regular and HQ. These are both 12-bit but have different data rates. This chart here shows the data rates of 4K 23.98 FPS. Here you can see them compared to other flavours of ProRes and uncompressed RAW, and how great the data rates are. The codec has a variable bit rate. This means depending on the amount of detail your scene has, the codec will fluctuate the data rate. Before going out and shooting, it's worth making sure you understand how to expose the E2 to get the absolute most out of the camera. These are the same guidelines as shooting regularly with the ZCam series in Z-Log2. The most important pieces of information to take away are to not underexpose, expose using false colour, which the ZCam has built in and so does the Ninja 5, white balance properly, and once your highlights are clipped, they are clipped. With false colour, you want to make sure your image has as little red, orange, purple and blue as possible. Middle grey should be sitting at neon green, and skin should fall somewhere between neon green and yellow. If you're not used to exposing like this, it's 100% worth testing before taking it onto a paid job. So the highest resolution you can shoot is Cinema 4K, but you can shoot at 9 other resolutions as you step down, as well as a few low noise modes. These reduce detail and lower noise. You can shoot in H.264, H.265, ProRes Proxy, ProRes LT, ProRes 422, ProRes 422 HQ, and ZRAW. That's such a great range of options to choose from. H.264 is only really there if you are seriously restricted with your media and your processing power in post. H.265 is where the camera flexes its slow motion muscles. Here you can shoot Cinema 4K and UHD up to 120 frames per second, Cinema 4K 2.4:1 at 150 frames per second, 4K 2.4:1 at 160, and if you drop down to HD, you can capture 240 frames per second. H.265 isn't the nicest codec to work with in post if your hardware is limited, but you can always transcode it if you need to. The slow-mo itself looks absolutely fantastic. It's a step above the rest, especially at this price point. You then have all your ProRes options. Unsurprisingly, as you step up in quality, your frame rates drop. However, ProRes support internally is again pretty fantastic given its price point, and you can shoot a huge range of frame rates across all of the flavours of ProRes. Lastly, you have ZRAW. Here you can shoot up to 60 frames per second across most resolutions, apart from the low noise ones. Anyway, enough specs, let's look at some test footage. I didn't have too many accessories for the M4 about, so this rig was pretty simple. I used a range of lenses, a Metabones Ultra Speed Booster, a small rig cold shoe adapter, a Manfrotto 492 LCD, the Ninja 5, an Atomos 4K 60 HDMI cable, and an Agelbird Atomos SSD Mini 1TB, as well as a couple of MPF batteries. Using this rig to capture footage is really simple, but I would change a few things. Here's an example of what I would recommend for a compact and versatile handheld rig. Links for everything are in the description. The E2 really requires a monitor to make it usable, so having the Ninja 5 attached to the top of it doesn't feel abnormal at all. I shot a range of things over the course of a couple of days, so this is going to be a weird mishmash of clips. Our post workflow is mainly Windows based, which is why I was really excited to see that Premiere Pro now fully supports ProRes RAW natively as of version 14.2. With this, they also introduced NVENC support with NVIDIA 10 and 20 series cards, which has improved our render times massively. So when it comes to post-processing, I use Premiere Pro to process the files. To do this, all you need to do is head over to Apple's website and download the ProRes RAW software. This will enable Premiere to properly process these files. The link is in the description. Once this is installed, make sure your Premiere Pro is up to date and open it up. You can now just drag and drop the footage into Premiere. To access the RAW parameters in Premiere, you just need to hit Effects, then select the Master Effects tab, and you can now change your exposure from here. Now this is quite limited in comparison to some of the other RAW formats on the market, but this exposure slider does work well. The thing to remember is that this format is still fairly new in comparison to others, and it is still a good option for people who've become accustomed to a ProRes acquisition and editing workflow. They want to reduce data rates with an improvement of image quality and post flexibility. However, I do think Apple should open up what you can change when it comes to the RAW parameters more and fully explain how Final Cut X and Premiere are handling the raw data on the back end. Playback wise, it's great. Even with some colour applied, I have no trouble playing it back in real time at full res. I have more experience colouring footage in Resolve over Premiere, but the footage seems to grade nicely in Premiere. The footage is very detailed and it feels like it can be pushed and pulled back decently. One thing I noticed was the warp stabilizer took ages to process these clips, longer than it normally would with other clips that are the same size in different formats. I also wanted to compare shooting ProRes and ZRAW internally over ProRes RAW externally. ZRAW will eventually be coming to Premiere Pro. And
wait. Zcam have just released their Premiere Pro plugin for ZRAW. This means that processing and editing ZRAW is now much easier. You can now install the plugin, which is in the description, and import ZRAW directly into Premiere on Windows right now. You can access this the same way as any other RAW adjustment in Premiere, so head over to your Effects Control tab, then on the left you've got the Master Effects tab, hit that, and then you're greeted with 3 adjustment sliders. Here you have ISO control, white balance, and tint sliders. Then you can use the ZLog color plugin for Premiere to prep for color or to output to a range of color spaces. You don't have quite the same functions as you do in the ZRAW Video Suite program itself, but for workflows that don't require any of the additional features, this is a solid option. Playback is way better in Premiere than with the Video Suite program itself. Here's my computer that I'm currently running this on. They recommend a 1080, but what they are really saying is that's the kind of the benchmark for the best performance, and anything above that's going to be great. Anything below that, you could get issues with playback, so 1080 up, you're good to go.
With this update, both companies have also announced that they are developing touchscreen control for the E2 series with the Ninja, which is going to be awesome. This is something some of the port keys monitors have been able to do for a while now, so it's great to see Atomos coming into the space also. I'm really excited to see how Atomos implement this and can't wait to get my hands on the firmware. Overall, the addition of ProRes RAW to the Zcam E2 is only positive. The E2 pretty much requires the use of an external monitor, so going with the Ninja 5 could make a lot of sense if you're wanting to shoot externally to SSDs and are wanting to shoot in ProRes or experience ProRes RAW. ProRes RAW is still in its infancy, but it's much easier to process when compared to ZRAW currently, and the data rates are awesome given the quality. So for people who want a similar experience to ProRes with lower data rates and added flexibility, this is a great option. The image quality you can get out of this camera is truly amazing for the price point, and ProRes RAW is a nice cherry on top. Let us know what you think of the ZCam E2 and E2-M4 in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you hit subscribe, hit the bell and give us a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.